forward to spending time with you today. We're going to be talking about something very important, something super near and dear to me, and that is leaving, how to leave a toxic relationship. How so many of us get into these relationships and we find that they're very difficult to exit, that we struggle over and over again to get out of the relationship only to find ourselves pulled back in at some level. There's some maneuver that happens that really makes it hard for us to get out and stay out. So today we're going to be talking about why that happens, why toxic relationships are so captivating and mesmerizing, why it takes a survivor an average between 4 to 7 efforts to leave before they're able to leave and then stay permanently out of the relationship. So I'm so excited that you guys are here today to join me. I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I'm a mental health specialist. I was a psychologist for over 20 years where I saw patients in the office and treated people for a whole variety of reasons. And these days, I primarily create content about toxic relationships, about healing from trauma and from the effects of abuse. And I'm so excited that you're here with me today to really get into this topic about why leaving is so incredibly difficult. I know a lot of us get into these, when from the outside, it looks basic, it looks simple. Something doesn't go right, you just say, hasta la vista, baby, and you walk out, right? It looks like it should be no difficulty. It should be like common sense. But unfortunately, in toxic relationships, that's not what happens. There's a whole host of things that occur to the victim, to the survivor of that toxic relationship, that basically causes a paralyzing effect. It causes so much intense psychological confusion, so much inner anguish and agony that those on the outside who've never experienced something like this really struggle to understand why this is difficult, why people stay even when they know that it's bad, even when they know that there's incredible abuse and trauma and that they've been massively betrayed. Why do they stay? And I know to the public it just doesn't seem to make sense. But when you're in it, it makes complete sense because you're the one that's going through it. So today I'm going to talk about that. What we're going to get into. Let me kind of lay out what the topics will be so that you know where we're going to be going. I want to first talk about why it's difficult to leave. I have 15 reasons why it's difficult to leave. We're going to talk about the 15 reasons why it's difficult to leave. And then we're going to get into another piece of what makes it difficult, how narcissists use very convincing strategies and manipulations that keep us stuck in these relationships. So we're going to get into the practicalities of that. What are those actually, what are those mechanisms are? How is it that they work? And by the way, I wonder if you'll notice that the very thing that made love bombing so successful is the thing that happens when you're trying to leave, that they pull out a lot of the same tactics in a different way, but similar during the exit. And then we're going to be talking about the final thing we'll kind of wrap up before I start taking your question is some strategies. So if you're in that place right now and you're thinking, I want to get out, I want to leave, I want it to be successful, I maybe I've already left and I've come back and I'm feeling so bad about that. We're going to talk about, here are some practical steps at the end. If you stick around to the end, are practical steps about how to psychologically prepare to leave so that you can leave for good. So that's what we're going to get into this live. I'm so excited that you guys are joining me. If you're new to me, I'd love you to become a subscriber so I can see more of you because I really like building relationships with people. And also, I'll save at least 15 to 20 minutes to take your questions. So if you have a specific question that you want to ask me about the process of leaving or why toxic relationships are extremely difficult, why we really struggle. And yes, already one of the common myths have popped up on one of my chats. I'm going live right now on Instagram. I'm sorry, not Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And I know we want to think that it's boundaries, that it's just simply that the victim didn't hold better boundaries. I wish it was that simple. It really is not simple because boundaries to a narcissist is a red flag to a bull. So basically, it's like you walked into a difficult setting and you start setting boundaries, and they're going to batter you down for that. They're going to find either if they're covert, they'll find ways to work around them and make you feel super stupid and tripped up, and you feel like you should have thought all the possible angles. They're going to find angles you didn't even think of to show you that you have no control. And if they're more of an aggressive, like straight on malevolent, or just a grandiose, then they're going to find a way to just batter them. And I do agree. The person just responded, I'm talking about internal boundaries, not external boundaries. Yes, I agree. I think internal boundaries are the way to go, but we're going to talk about what does that mean? What's an internal boundary? Because a lot of us like to think of boundaries like setting limits, like I'm walking out of the room if you start calling me names. That's probably not going to work. But if you start to walk out of the room when the name calling starts, see, that's an internal boundary. But we're going to get into that. So I'm so excited you are joining me today to talk about leaving and leaving for good, how to prepare for it, why it's so hard. So let's start at the top of the first of the three parts I'm going to cover, which is why is it so hard to leave? Well, like I said, that the things that work to get you into the relationship are often the very things that they pull out and use when you are trying to leave. Like they act like the trauma bond gets activated, and how they activate it is they once again everything that you once upon a time really wish you had with them, they start doing. So they now are you're getting this experience of affection. They start to show remorse. They make promises of change. Everything that gives you a sense of hope. They really hear me on this. If you're feeling hopeful because you've been hearing things that you want to hear that you've been asking for a very long time, and you finally got to the place where you think you're going to leave and now you're hearing about it, that is because they know that hope works. They are weaponizing your hope. So I really want you to hear that, because I'll tell you, that was where I got stuck so much. I mean, mine was so good at making it look like he was working super hard. I really thought that he was super motivated and that we are going to make it. And he even increased his activities with treatment programming and all that kind of stuff. It looked like, to a normal person, what he was doing. If this had just been a normal relationship and we had a little hiccup, what he was doing was fantastic and would have led to a healthier relationship. But with a narcissist, and this is the really tricky part that takes some discernment on your part, it's not actually work. It's actually a form of what's called responsibility avoidance. It looks like work, but it's actually not work. It's really a more sophisticated form of avoiding responsibility, anything in a relationship. And it ends up making you think they're doing good things, because for yourself and for other healthy people, it is a good thing. But when it comes to somebody who has an extremely dysfunctional personality type, it's just another form of manipulation. And I know we have to be savvy. That takes us listening to our gut and really paying attention to how it feels. We have to watch, we have to see, are they really showing changes as a result of this, whatever it is that they're doing? Do we see them becoming softer and more patient? Are they actually delaying impulses and showing better discipline? Are they showing more control? All these things that would be signs of a better, healthier relationship. Of course, I'm already talking about it because the trauma bond gets activated. There's increased manipulation and gaslighting, and usually this is how it looks. I warn people, when you first attempt to leave or start acting like you're leaving, or they pick up. Here's the other thing: these people are sophisticated. They really are. They have like a sixth sense, and they know when things are kind of getting shaky between you and them. And they then pull out all these things that you've been wanting, and things start to get better. So it gets sweet. And then when you don't change and you're still feeling like you're going to leave, when you don't change, then it turns nasty. So be prepared that when you're thinking of leaving a toxic relationship, that at first you're going to see all the charm, the sweetness, everything that you ever wanted, the trip that you talked about that they never jump for, or maybe the renovation in the house that you really wish would happen. Now they're game, or maybe there's some change with the work situation. Everything that you've been wanting and hoping for will happen. But then when you still stand firm on this relationship and you like move forward, like, yes, you know what, that's not working, I'm done out of here, then they're going to turn on the rage. You're going to then see the rage and all the threats and intimidation and all that kind of stuff. Or if they're the covert narcissist, they'll ratchet up the fear. They'll activate the I'm going to hurt myself, or I can't live without you, or you're going to damage the kids, or what are people going to think? You're going to one or the other. They're going to actually either like turn up the fear, turn up the intimidation, turn up the aggression, or they're going to turn up the pity. So you're going to see them do one of these things as a way to really manipulate you. Now, also be prepared. I started to mention it, a fear of retaliation. I knew that that was one of the things that kind of hung over me was that if I took certain actions, mine had already threatened to take, like directly threatened to take our business to court and start to sue me professionally. So you may see this kind of effort to retaliate. Like they may threaten, like they're going to take the kids away from you, or no one's going to believe you, or they're going to tell on you in some way to somebody that really matters to you, and they're going to do something that really like activates your fear. And the thing about this retaliation, it's actually real. A lot, sometimes the person you're with. Some of them, it is a bit of smoke and mirrors, but then there's some people that they will do these things, and they're warning you, hoping that the warning acts as a manipulation, but chances are they have it within them because they don't have the same kind of conscience that you have, and they lack empathy, so they don't care they're going to blow up your life and destroy it. They absolutely don't care. So these threats of retaliation, often for those of us who live in these relationships, that's why it's so hard to leaving. We know these threats they're good for the threat. We know that this is just not a threat. It's an actual it's a promise. So the next thing that happens is low self-esteem. We, by this point in the relationship, have been so battered, so just exhausted. We feel shaky. To give you a sense of how much that can happen, I had started writing on Quora in 2016 when my late husband passed away, and I made it like a religious thing. I didn't know that it was the right thing to do. I was just very consistent. So for 2 years, I was writing on, like a year and a half, I was writing on Quora, and I built a following. I built a significant following and had a lot of credibility. I got into that toxic relationship, and I stopped writing. And then I got awarded top writer. That's back when Quora did that. I got awarded for my writing in 2017, but I stopped writing. Why? Well, for one, he was taking up way too much time. I didn't have the space, the mental space to be able to write anymore. But I also started feeling shaky. My imposter syndrome, which is what happens to you if you've been in these relationships long enough, you've been struggling with imposter syndrome. I got shaky enough to think, well, maybe I'm not all that good. Maybe I'm kind of overthinking this, and I'm overinflated, because a narcissist, as you've already know, if you've lived in one of these relationships, they view the world extremely competitive. So imagine this is a stage, like life is a stage, or like Shakespeare suggests in Macbeth, and you supposedly we all get to sit on the stage together. But for a narcissist, the only person that he wants or she wants on that stage is themselves. And so the minute they think you're starting to take up space, and there's some effort and direction coming to you in some way, they then make you so shaky and quietly erode your confidence. Like one of the things that I heard was, we were running a vacation rental business, and we had to deal with dealings in Spanish, and I'm not fluent in Spanish. I know a little bit, enough to be dangerous, but I'm not fluent. Well, he would comment on my writing and say, I can't believe you sent that. I can't believe you said that. And I'm like, what? I was like, what? So I started feeling really like insecure about what I was doing. And then that just translated. I started feeling insecure about my emails in English, and I started feeling insecure about what I was saying. And I found myself struggling to even speak because I got insecure about how I said things. And I got really, I started suffering from a lot of imposter syndrome. So that's another reason why victims stay. It's not because we suffer from chronically low self-esteem. It's because the narcissist has implanted their projection, their sense of failure, their inability to keep anything together in their life. And then they project that out. They don't own their failures. They want you to own it. They want you to feel bad about it. So they want you to be the one that carries all the shame. So they offload it through this defense mechanism called projection. And because we tend to be nice, kind people, and we want good things, and we're also thoughtful, and we tend to really reflect on what we say and how we say it, we believe it to some extent, and it starts to become true for us, even though it actually is not true. You're probably way more uh, better at anything that this person ever has said to you. You know, any criticism this person has ever levied against you, I have a feeling it's false. First of all, it's probably false. And even if you're not a masterful at it, you're probably way better than you think you are. Way better than you think you are. They literally will sit there and pick away at you, and the purpose of it is because they, again, think of this stage. You know, if you're on a like a play, you're on a musical, they want to be the only they want that spotlight only on them. And the sad part is is I think this is the really ironic sad part. You never attempted to take the spotlight in the first place. You never did. You were a person who was willing to let them have the spotlight. I know I was. There was a moment where we ran into somebody on the near the end of the relationship, and I still at that time had strong feelings for him. And he was talking to one of our guests, and the guest was looking at him, and I was looking at him, and the guest stopped and said, "I wish a woman would look at me the way your wife looks at you." And my partner just looked at them kind of like strange. I knew he didn't understand. He didn't understand the adoration that I was giving him, the degree I admired the good pieces in this person. And so when we get in these relationships, we're willing to let that other person shine. We know how to give them space, but because of their excessive dysfunction around this grandiose need to be front and center, they feel such a threat by any kind of appearance of you in any kind of way that you might like take. Maybe you're even just like literally the moon and you're just taking the shine off this, you know, whatever this person's shine is. They still find that threatening, and as a result they will do whatever they can to really do to sort of destroy you. Of course, there's financial dependence, loads and loads of financial abuse. 99% of us who have been in these relationships have experienced some form of financial abuse. I know for me, when I first heard that fact, I thought I was really struck by it because I was the one that had the money. So I'm thinking, well, how could he have financially abused me? It's how could he, like, I don't know, because I'm the one that's I'm the president of the company. I have my checking accounts in my name. I'm listed as but here he still found ways. He found ways to probably, he was embezzling from the money. He was also stealing from our personal account, stealing from, you know, he was running money around me instead of through me, and keeping me out of the loop. And he was spending it on things that I would have found extremely objectionable. So yes, he was financial. Of course, he then threatened to take me to court to sue me for the company. So definitely he was threatening me financially. So a lot of us in the relationships, we haven't been able to get the kind of education we needed. We haven't been able to pursue the jobs that we've been interested, or our job careers have been sabotaged so that we can't focus at work, so that we can't get the promotions that we need. Maybe that we've agreed to be a stay-at-home parent, and then they use that and put us in an extremely dependent position where we're very, very vulnerable and helpless. So all of these things happen that really cause us to feel significantly financially dependent. And then there's the isolation, which is just huge. And that starts the minute that you meet them, is that you're being isolated, and that they fuss about your other connections. They want to be the sole connection. And think about why they're doing this, because if they keep you from having resources through other people, then you don't have the ability to run these things past somebody to get their feedback. You also then don't have the support system when you need the help leaving, for you actually to get the help from other people to leave. So all of these things kind of come into play that really make you in trouble when it comes time to leave. And of course, there's children and family obligations. Then there's the cognitive dissonance. And I want to, like I said, there's a whole host of these. I'm going to run through most of them, but I want to stop and spend some time on cognitive dissonance. I don't know if you guys know that I wrote the book, First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist. It's also an online course that you can get. The reason I honed in on this so hard was because it was what I suffered with. I think this was the biggest piece that just paralyzed me. So let me describe what it is. Cognitive dissonance is there's beliefs that we have and hold. There are sort of things that have to do with our integrity and what we value, what's important to us. And then there's what we actually do. And we get super confused so we may say, you know, it's the beginning of 2025, you may have made some New Year's resolution this year. And so you're thinking, I want to start the year off on a good foot, but then before you know it, you fall back into an old habit. And that tension you feel inside of yourself between having this new goal for the year and then falling into the old habit, that tension you're feeling inside yourself is cognitive dissonance. It's not a comfortable feeling. We don't like it. So what we often do is we then usually lean into the direction of then we do what we do. We take an action. And the minute we take an action, then we solve the cognitive dissonance. But here's how it happens in a toxic relationship. And so if you'd like really deep dive help on that, check out First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist. But how they do this is that they then create they present one way. You think that you know this person. It really does feel like you're living with Dr. Jekyll. You know this person. But you also see a Mr. Hyde, and you can see increasingly amount of this Mr. Hyde personality. Now, it applies to both men and women. I'm just using the analogy from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde because of that analogy. It just works so well. So then you're in this confusion of who's the real person. Is it the first person or the second person? The good person that I fell in love with, or is it the second person that just makes my life miserable? And that tension between you thinking you know this person, see, there's the belief, but then feeling that you don't know them because of what you're living with, because of all their action, then you end up feeling intensely confused about what is true. And then they emphasize it by lying and deceiving you. Again, let's use this example from mine. He was going to therapy, at least I thought. Maybe he wasn't all those time. Maybe he ditched his phone near the therapist's office and did something else. I don't know that. But it looked like he was doing the work, and yet there was nothing happening, and nothing but the lies and the deceptions and the betrayals were still going on. See, there creates the confusion. There's what you're living with that seems real, and then there's what they're saying, which is bad, and you know it's bad. But then there's what they're saying, what they're promising, what they appear to be doing that leads you to feeling confused. So you don't know what's real. Sandra Brown looked at this in 2014 with this massive study. I think it was out of Purdue University, and found that cognitive dissonance, this part of cognitive dissonance in this relationship, she said was, I actually got to interview her. She said it was the most agonizing part of the abuse, because you couldn't figure out what was real. And those of you who may have followed me for a while know that there's been research study that comes out that shows that cognitive dissonance actually creates neurological damage, that we aren't meant to stay in a state of confusion of not knowing what's real and what's not. And sure enough, the minute you threaten this relationship in any way, even if you just unconsciously transmitted the information that you're thinking about leaving, that's all that could have happened. You may have not ever said out loud, I'm on my way out. But if you are living with a very sophisticated, like a psychopathic person who's very good at picking up cues, they're like a predator. They're like a snake, a cobra watching its mark. They may have picked up that something in you changed, that there is you're behaving differently in some way. And because of that, then they are going to then activate this intense confusion. They're going to start changing things to make it look like that they're doing the work or they're being different in order to throw you off, so that you then let go of your plans. And the minute, of course, which is the horrible truth that, again, the outside people who public doesn't understand, the minute you then relax, think that it is getting better, then they revert back to the original pattern before, and often worse, because they do this weird thing in their head. I don't really get it. I know that other narcissists have shared about it, but they do this really weird thing in their head. It's like, well, that person chose to stay and they know what I'm like, so they're agreeing to put up with me. I mean, I know I never made that agreement. I'm sure you never made that agreement, but that they do this weird thing that sort of settles it in their head that then justifies why they're behaving so poorly. So yeah, cognitive dissonance is terrible. It's so horrible. And it keeps people locked in these relationships for a very long time. There's also societal pressures and stigma. We then also have a fear of loneliness. We tend to believe in change, that change is possible. And because of that, we tend to stick around and keep around for so long. We've also been beaten down so many times that we end up thinking, why bother trying? Seriously, just why bother? And so there's some learned helplessness that happens. And then there's a lot of guilt and shame. I mean, they say we're the problem. We wish we were the problem, because if it was us, we would change and we'd do differently and do better. but we feel guilty and feel bad about that. And you know what? Here's the other truth of the whole matter is we love this person. That's why we married them or got moved in with them or had a family with them or bought a house with them. We made big changes because we have strong feelings about this person. And then, of course, there's all the practical challenges just to leaving. Even a healthy relationship's not easy to leave, but when it's a toxic relationship, whoo, it's really a challenge. So those are the reasons why that it's so hard to leave these relationships, why it takes a survivor the average of 4 to 7 times to get out. So I want to talk about the next part, and there's 2 more parts to this, and then I'm going to start taking your questions. And I'm watching the time. I want to save some time for you guys. I want to talk about the strategies they'll use that really trick us and they make us fall for this and makes us fall for thinking that maybe they're really different and maybe they mean it this time. So I'm going to go kind of through these fast because I want to get to the section of how to strategically prepare so that you can leave and leave for good. And then I'm going to start taking time to take your questions. So again, for those who are new to me and have never seen my face before, I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I am a retired psychologist. I have over 20 years of counseling, and I really love being here with you and hanging out and talking about these big, tough topics. So here are why these strategies work so effectively. Well, because love bombing creates a hook, and love bombing gets you hopeful, and it creates an illusion that things are what they seem to be instead of what they actually are. Then they use guilt tripping, which kind of activates your sense of responsibility and makes you feel selfish for prioritizing your needs. Like you getting out, they'll twist it and make it you getting out is either injuring them or it's affecting the family or it's going to hurt the public or hurt your reputation or hurt whatever. But they have this way of making you feel responsible for the action that they actually led you to. I want you to hear that part. I'm going to say that again. You come to the place of leaving because they've led you to that place, because there's no other option. Okay, so in other words, it's on them. You're leaving, it's on them, but they'll make you feel like it's on you, that you're doing this, that you're the one harming them, and you're the one messing everything up by your action. I have seen, you guys have told me so many examples of this, how they've twisted it and in some way and turned this around and made you the problem when you're only reacting to them. Like, you hear me? You're reacting to them. So I want you to really hear that's what's happening. And it's not you're on you, it's on them. They are very good at playing the victim. And this hit me hard. You know, if survivors get attacked for the victim mentality that we supposedly have, I really want you to hear me on this. You're not the victim. You're a survivor. You're trying to get out and heal and move on and do all these. They're the victim. They're like, oh, how can you do this for me? I can't believe that you're so vindictive. I didn't know you had this side to you. I mean, if I knew this about, they like, think of what you're doing to the kids. I mean, all this stuff, that's all victim mentality crap. That's not actually somebody who's interested in doing the work. They're the one that's making themselves back to that stage, front and center. It's all about them. And they're the ones being wounded because life's not fair and life's not good and they're not getting what they want. So but when they do that, because we're tenderhearted and we're empathic and we're responsibility driven, it tends to work. Unfortunately, I see a lot of times where it tends to work. And then they make you second guess. They're using gaslighting to make you doubt that maybe you didn't get it right. Maybe you didn't hear it right, or maybe you didn't try hard enough. They even make you gaslight yourself on that. And here's the other thing that I find so incredibly toxic is that smear campaign. The smear campaign starts to really ratchet up, really get like in full motion when you are trying to leave. But I want to say something to you that's really hard. And that is smear campaigns started the moment you met them. They started to create a caricature of you that wasn't actually you. They made, like, I'll tell you what mine was. Mine was, he was painting it out that I was a sick, frail person who wasn't physically well. And now I know, because I think he was trying to poison me. He wanted me to look like I was falling ill and that was a natural course to what was happening. Now I know that's very dramatic, very horrifying. It is horrifying. It's horrifying that I survived that and that somebody would try to do that to me. But they've done it to you. They have maybe made you out to be, you're a sensitive person, or you have a stack of failed relationships, or you're so insecure, or, there's some story they've created about you that they've painted you that way, and then they have quietly fed it to really like create this belief that you're this person. So then when you leave, you then you fulfill this, or you start to think about leaving. They really then turn it up and show that you're leaving is evidence of whatever it is that they've been creating this narrative about you that isn't necessarily true. And then the other weird part is then they'll come back and try to hoover you to stay connected. And it's often why. I mean, you wonder, like, why would you do that? You've been betraying me. You're not invested. You hate the way things are in this house. So why would you want to stay? But they do this partly because they don't like the loss of control. So the minute that it looks like you're moving on and doing better, they're insecure. But they also really want to know that they have it. They have it to keep you. So part of it is their need to validate themselves. And it also just is a great manipulation so that you're always on the hook and always vulnerable. It keeps you in the vulnerable position. They'll triangulate you with other people. So they'll start to like get other people involved to sort of like use these people as a way to sort of turn on you, but also make you feel insecure, it increases their credibility. They'll say, well, I was talking to Joe at work and, he said his wife was like this too. And you're like, well, maybe it is me. Or she may say to you, I've been telling the kids that you're really struggling. And you're like, well, great. So maybe if the kids also agree, maybe it is me. But they'll do these things to sort of like really play off and make you feel insecure. Of course, this taps into your fear of abandonment, and which then they use breadcrumbing to keep you on the hook so that you end up feeling like, maybe he's hopeful. Maybe, I don't have to be alone. I don't want to be alone. So they just kind of keep dragging this on with feeding you these little morsels of hope and morsels of enough affection to keep you sustained. And of course, there's the emotional blackmail. And you guys all know what that looks like, where, what it's going to lose access to the finances or kids or stability or something. And then they appeal to your shared history together. Like, how can you let go? I mean, they sort of use this sunk cost fallacy against you. Like, well, we've gone through so much. Do you want to give up now? All this kind of stuff that just tugs at you and makes you feel really awful, makes you feel terrible. And of course, they're exploiting. I want you to hear me on this. They're exploiting your empathy. They're exploiting your empathy. They know that you're a caretaking kind of person, that you're a person who's long suffering and patient, that you're a person who's loyal and has people's back. And they're really like tapping into this so that you then feel like you are failing them and not being true to yourself. Again, this is another form of cognitive dissonance, that you're not being true to yourself and not being a kind person. So they really tap into it. And of course, they pretend that they're changing when they're not actually changing. And like I said before, at the top of the hour, this is a hard one because like I said, if this was just a general, normal person, a little insecure, and they were doing this work, it would lead to change and things would get better. But with a toxic personality, with a person who has a character disturbance, to use Dr. Simon's language, it's just a form of what he calls responsibility avoidant. It's a form of manipulation. All right, so watch out for those. I want you to really, really watch out for those. Listen to yourself and be prepared for this incredible manipulation. You thought it was bad in the relationship. It's going to get terrible when you try to leave. So really watch out for that. So how do you prepare to strategically leave for good? Well, first of all, is become aware. And you even just hanging out with me today, that's how you do it. You start to learn about the dynamics of abuse. You start to learn how to keep track of the patterns. Maybe it might help to keep a journal. So you actually like have a record of what happens. I know for me that when something really discombobulates me, I often have to step away. I have to write it down, think about what actually happened. Lately, I've been using ChatGPT. I run the scenario through ChatGPT, ask it to do analysis, and I really listen to how I feel. But it's important for you to increase your awareness, start to recognize the patterns, really get mental clarity. So that's step number one. Step number two, I want you to start really working on your self-worth. Start to find a way to build things in that practice a non-judgmental relationship with yourself. It's to counteract all the shame, the guilt, and all the blame that you're feeling. I really want you to find this self-compassion practices. I don't know if you guys saw the video I put out earlier today on don't be a fitness trainer when it comes to your mental health. Be a nurse and a spiritual guide. Create emotional space. Be curious. Be non-judgmental. See this as not as a as a pass fail experience. This is a process. But part of you doing this, providing space, this emotional compassion, really helps you to strengthen your self esteem. And then I want you to start reconnecting with the relationships that are the healthiest in your life. I want you to start to rebuild your connection to people who can really be there for you and show up, who can maybe even can be your ride or die person when it comes to you leaving, can help you actually get out to stay out. It's number 4, it takes strategy. So first is build awareness and clarity. Number 2, strengthen your self-worth. Number 3, rebuild your support system. Number 4, I want you to start to plan strategically. You need a safety plan. You need a safety plan. You need to include step by step. I actually have I don't know where it is. I'd have to find it and put the link in various places. I will, if I can think of it and remember it, but if you want, contact me. I have an exit plan strategy that I'd be happy to share with you. It's just one sheet of things that you can walk through and check. No cost, it's free. It's just a free gift from me. But I want you to know where all the important documents are. I want you to start taking photocopies of them. Find your marriage certificate, find your kids' birth certificates, find your birth certificate, find all this, have your social security card, really know where your passport is, all these important pieces, know the deed of the house, who the mortgage lender is, get a copy of your bank accounts, and know what the numbers are of all those accounts, and not only, the account number, but also the balance, know what the balance is, start to, really strategically plan. And then I want you to get a free consultation with an attorney, if you can find somebody that does that, and sit down with them and know what the law is, either in your country or in your state, because they vary from state to state, and they definitely vary from country to country. So know what your rights are. For example, I bet some of you didn't know that if you're both on the deeds, you can't lock your partner out of the house. Because this person's on the deed. They technically own that house along with you. You may also not know that you can't just up and leave with the kids. That's considered kidnapping in a lot of states. So there are some things that you can't do that might, if you do, that might really put you into jeopardy legally. And I don't want you to do that. So please know what the legal, and here's the thing. The partner you've been living with may have been said, you can't do blah, blah, blah. They're not right. They don't know the law in your state. And they probably got it off Hollywood, off the TV, It's not, it's not accurate. So please find out the truth in your area, what is real about what you can do and cannot do. It's so important that you just get it and know it. And then I want you to start to strategically plan. I want you to start to find ways to save money. I know this is super hard. And this is an idea I got from Tara Blair Ball, who was my co-host a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago. I love this idea. She said that when you're at the grocery store, buy one of those $20 credit cards. Put it on the bill. If your partner doesn't check the grocery bill, add an extra 20 every time that you're out, and then start building these cards up of money. Or overspend and ask for the change back. Like take an item that you don't need and then turn around, walk back in, and then exchange it. So find ways to help, because I'm such a conscientious person. Me telling you this a year ago I would have I don't know if I could have told you this, because it would have felt so devious and so wrong. But here's the thing. Your toxic partner is spending money in ways that are damaging to you, devastating to your family, terribly betraying. I know that they are. They're not thinking of you at all. They may be bitching about your Starbucks, but chances are they're out there spending money in maybe gambling or spending it on drinks or something. They're doing something that's extraordinarily damaging to you and to the relationship. You doing this because you have a limited access is a safety net. I need you to see this as not being deceptive, but being proactively safe. It's just a way for you to start to do what you need to do to be thinking of yourself. They're not thinking of us. They're thinking of them. I need you to start thinking about you. I need you to change the focus to you, because this person has already destroyed this relationship. You actually technically don't have a relationship anymore. They betrayed it. They betrayed the trust that you had. They're not invested. So change your thinking on this so that you can start to strategically plan to save money. These days, it's very easy to open a bank account online. So do one of these strategies, because so many of you get a hold of me and say, I can't do anything. I am financially strapped. I'm helpless. Well, I feel terrible hearing that. But I also remember being in that place, and that we each of us have to get very strategic and very proactive and calculating in how we're going to do this. We really have to figure out how we're going to do this. Nobody can do this for us. Nobody can. We have to do this for ourselves. And I'm sorry. I wish I had a fairy godmother wand that I could just wave and change this for everybody. I really wish that. And I want you to start researching the community resources in your area. Find out where the shelter is. Find out about legal aid. Often there is a social service department that you can call and start just asking questions. You can be very practical and start finding out, how long do they let you stay, and when can you show up, and what qualifies for them staying there, and what kind of assistance can they give you to get you going, get you on your feet. I know many of us watched the Netflix show Made, and that unfortunately was so accurate and with what it's like for a lot of us. But notice what she did in that. She never stopped. She never stopped pushing and trying to find to buy her freedom. So I need you to do the same. Work on emotionally detaching. This is another really hard one. You have centered this person and made them their mental health, their approval, your center of your life. It has mattered to you because that was how you're protecting yourself from all the criticism, the attacks, the gaslighting, the conflict, all of that. But I want you to start now shifting. They're not your concern. Now, stay pleasant, stay hospitable, stay civil. I'm not asking you to take them on. I'm asking you to start to detach so you don't center their opinion on what they think. I want you to really start to okay, so they don't like that outfit on you. Okay. They don't like that outfit. I want it to be no more important to you than it is if the guy down the road at the gas station have to look at you wrong. All right, whatever. I don't really care. You're nice, oh, okay, and then you just move on. I want you to get to a place where you're oh, okay, you just move on. Where before you're oh my goodness, why do they feel that way? That feels so hurtful. I don't know why they're doing that. I want you to, but emotionally detach. Next is, every time you feel pulled in, well, maybe I'm being too mean, or maybe they're really working, or maybe it's different this time, I want you to challenge the cognitive dissonance. This is point number 6. Challenge the cognitive dissonance. I want you to reinforce the term that it's not your responsibility to change or fix another person who's hurting you. It's not your responsibility to change or fix somebody who's hurting you. Number 7, I want you to start to really reclaim your independence. Now, this might start out small. It might be just that you set up your own email box and you quit sharing one with them. Although I'm guaranteeing you, they have their own email box. Maybe you have one that's shared and it's your only one, but they have one. So, but set up your own email box, starting to fix meals that you like. Figure out what kind of hobbies you want to have. Literally start to go out with your girlfriends or your boy. You go out with your friends. Go out with friends. Do something that just builds your life up. That's number 7. Number 8, I want you to face the loneliness, the fear of loneliness head on. I want you to start to find ways to enjoy time alone on your own and find out that it's not that bad. Shift it to thinking about you being on your own as feeling safe and relief and having peace, instead of you feeling that fearful thing of, oh my goodness, it's forever and I'm never going to have anybody in my life again. No, you will. You just need to get out there and start building new relationships. And then I also want you to, here's the last one, number 8. Actually, this is number 9. I want you to find an accountability partner. I want you to find a community of people who you can lean on, that you can fail with, you can be really honest. You know where the bodies are buried, and they know where your bodies are buried. I want you to find somebody that can help you keep accountable, somebody that just reinforces you and has got your back and is going to give you a lot of affirmation. So those are the ways for you to help prepare to leave and stay gone out of a toxic relationship, but also is why it's so difficult to leave a toxic relationship. Why from the outside it looks like it's simple, and it's not simple. And I know, Mobius, I didn't get into your internal boundaries suggestion, which is really good. I hope you heard them. They're all the way through this. I've been mentioning all these internal boundaries. Like, for example, you're going to stay detached and not get shook up when they attack you. You're not going to bite and start the argument when it happens. When they start to isolate you and tell you you can't go out and see friends, you're going to still find a way to connect with people. When they really push you on about having a certain kind of meal, you're still going to make sure that something that you made that night is something that you wanted. You're going to do all these little small things for yourself so that you can see yourself, care about yourself, and really improve the way you feel about yourself. So here's the ways for you to do it. I'm thankful that you guys have been here and hanging out with me, and I promised that I would spend the last 15 minutes taking your questions. So, and it can be about anything. Can it be about this, but it can be about anything. As you've been listening to me, maybe what is the things that are keeping you in this relationship that you've been really afraid to face, that feel like too overwhelming? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why it's been a struggle for you leaving. And I really want you to all know there is no shame here. No shame. This, like I said, takes us an average of 4 to 7 times. So this is a process. I returned once. I probably would have returned more than once had he really blew it at the end. I found out something that was so devastating that for me it kind of killed my feelings, and I was really ready for it to be over. But I'll tell you that despite me really ready to be over, there was a lot that really kept me emotionally hooked and on the line. It's hard. These relationships are super hard to leave, very much so. So I'm now starting to read your questions about what you want to know about this. Oh, Kimberly, I'm so glad you're here and you're hanging out with me on Facebook. That this is what happened to you in the marriage. Yeah, I agree with you. You said the divorce process is 1,000 times worse. It is. I think most people who have never had a divorce know how hard divorce is in general. It's never easy. But I would agree. These are terrible. It's a terrible experience. So Maria said, I took him back 4 different times. So many times that if you had to count the times I decided to leave and then I didn't. But I'm so glad I finally rescued myself. I'm so too, Maria. I'm just like, way to go. That's so awesome. And I do know that sometimes leaving is not possible for all of us, for sure. I know that. Some of us, it's a privilege. I heard Dr. Ramani say that, and it resonated with me. It's a privilege to be able to get out. It really is. It's very hard. Okay, so Alana, that's a hard one. Your husband has an ACE score of 10, and you feel so bad because he's accomplished so much. Yes, see, that's where the guilt plays in. Very, very much so. I want you to twist this around. And in fact, I'm going to do this by asking you some big questions here. First, are you the one who makes him behave poorly? No. Are you making him lose control? No. Are you the one making him make bad decisions? No. Okay, so he's got an ACE score of 10, which that means he's really suffered a lot in his life, a lot. But every person has a responsibility to do what they're going to do because it's their life. It is nobody else's life but your life and his life, your partner's life. And that he has to then look at that and say, what am I going to do to change so that I can overcome my trauma? He has the same access to all the supports that you do. But is he doing it? Is he becoming a better person, a nicer person, a more easier to get along with person? Because you can have a 10 on an ACE score, but it doesn't mean you're an abusive person. It really isn't. So that score, all that means is just that they've suffered a lot. It doesn't mean they get a get out of jail free card for suffering a lot. A lot of us deserve a get out of jail free card. But so I really want you to hear me on that. And I appreciate you saying something. So how do you deal with the flying monkeys? Do I have to give them up? So this question came in on YouTube. I do agree with that. Flying monkeys, for whatever reason, and I think the reasons are super complicated, why flying monkeys are the way they are. Some of them, they are in this relationship with this person and they have a lot to lose too. And so they're trauma bonded in kind of a way. I mean, you can, like neighbors, really neighbors. I mean, my softball kids, coach friends are. Yeah, probably some of them are, if they're close enough. So some of them, they have an investment. There's some kind of gain or investment from this relationship. Others of them are just, I think they're emotionally immature people who just don't know that things are more complicated and really like to believe in the just world theory, that things are the way that they are because people deserve it. That's a hard one to overcome. So my advice to you is that, unfortunately, you have to stop trying to convince the flying monkeys that they're wrong. They're not going to believe you. It doesn't really matter how much you say. They're going to still do what they do. Yeah, exactly. You just reinforced it. You just said, I fell for the BS, so how can I fault them for falling for it? Exactly. The toxic people, and that Dr. George Simon talks a lot about this in character disturbance. Toxic people are very, very good at image management. extremely, extraordinarily good at image management. So when they sense what people need to hear and they feed people what they need to hear in order for this image to stay positive, you're not going to combat that because they're masterful at this and they've been doing it a really long time. So I would just say, yeah, I would let go of that. Um, so, Lee, is it normal to feel very hesitant when I even get close to another relationship because of that fact? I'm skittish, like I just got out of a cult. I found that that is a very common response to these relationships. That we broke trust not only with this person, but we also had a broken trust with ourselves. We thought we knew ourselves well enough to know that we could pick good people, that we would spot not a good relationship. And unfortunately, these relationships have showed us that I want you to hear me on this. They deceived you, but you really thought that it was real, and but they used some very sophisticated strategies that actually come out of the same thing that cult leaders use as well as salesmen use. How do you find that sometimes we end up buying that vacuum cleaner we really didn't need because the guy showed up at the front door? So we need to give ourselves a break, a big break for this. And but that lack of trust that we now have for ourselves makes us hesitant to get into new relationships. And I think we also are just left with a whole host of triggers, so whole host of things that we just now start to get afraid of. That anything kind of remotely like it makes us feel that we're in danger again. So that as a result, we distrust that and we just get really skittish, super skittish. So, yeah, it's common. I would recommend, though, that you find small victories and focus on, like, take the thing that you want to do, the ideal thing that you'd like to get back to doing, and then break it into tiny pieces. Make it like baby steps, and then work on the baby steps. And one of the baby steps is this: imagine doing it first, whatever the baby step is. Don't do the actual baby step. Fantasize, imagine doing, play it over your head, doing the baby step first, then actually try the baby step and do that every step by step by step by step. That's how it's a desensitization method that I'm teaching you by doing that. Oh, Maria, I agree that being referred to or called a roommate around your adult children is not funny. And it's actually a jab. This person's making a jab at you at your expense. And it's kind of a dog whistle, I'd say. I really would. Yeah, Chris, you're saying you have cognitive dissonance big time because he doesn't understand or remember what he did, and I wish you had proof. I was like that. I got real crazy at the end. I started to try to follow him. I followed him across town, guys. I tried to sneak across town on foot and find out what he was up to. I tried to find the car, find him. I mean, I got crazy. I one time searched the underground car garage for a hidden phone. I mean, seriously. Um, but here's what I wish I knew then that I now know, Chris. So I'm going to tell you what I would tell myself then. I would say, if you're not feeling safe, if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel, like, yeah, you even said I left because of disrespect. It's enough. That's enough, Chris. If you don't actually need the proof of cheating to leave, you can go ahead and just leave. So, yeah, I'm glad that you got out because of that. I'm really glad. Um, yeah, so Kalia, it's a beautiful name, by the way. Kalia, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I fear being on my own and only having a couple dollars left after I pay the bills, and I'm just really afraid of falling on my face and really going back. I feel like I'm going backwards. It does feel that way. It really does feel like going backwards, but part of that is, yeah, you were looking under trash cans for the phone. Oh, well, you and me both. I was searching the car, the wheel well. I mean, looking under I mean, seriously, I was a crazy woman at the end of that relationship. But yeah, it is scary starting over. I had some of those nail biting moments too right after I left. That my fear was I'm going to have to go to my kids co-signed for my first apartment. I couldn't believe it. I had to have a co-signer. Yeah, it was humiliating. It was humiliating to go ask my son for and my son was the one ill with cancer, and I'm asking him for his signature on my apartment. It was crazy. So I hear that, but that's what if you focus on the fear, that's all you're going to see. You're just going to see the fear, and you're never going to see what you can do. So you need to focus on what you do. So take back to the baby steps. Use the baby steps as a way to get out. And that's really, really, really important. There was a question that came in that I saw come in on TikTok. So it had to do with cognitive dissonance. I think it was, how to recover. There it is. How to recover from cognitive dissonance. By First of all, you can check out my course, First Steps to Living a Narcissist, or get my workbook. It's on Amazon, First Steps to Living a Narcissist. It's also in TikTok Shop as well. You can buy it there. Um, it what I found that really helped me, that was so critical, was that I wrote down what I thought was true, and then I looked at it critically and asked myself what didn't make sense. And then I started to analyze the truth. I'll give you a for instance. He said he wanted to see his son. This was when we were dating. Took a trip up to the town his son lived, and he was out super, super late, came home, he didn't brush his teeth, he didn't change his clothes, and he got into bed. It was weird. And it was only when I wrote it down, and I wrote it for the book In Love You More. So I talk about this in Love You More. I wrote that scene down and thought about it, and then it hit me. He didn't see his son. He was out with a woman. And he didn't brush his teeth, and he didn't change his clothes because he didn't want me near him. Because he had been with somebody else, he didn't want me near him. So when you do that, when you write these scenes down that happen, that feels illogical, then start to apply the logic. Why would you do that? What would be your motives for doing that? Well, I wouldn't brush my teeth and keep my clothes on because I don't want the other person near me. I want to push them off. I want to discuss them. I want to create emotional space or physical space. So by really looking at these incidences that don't make sense, you can start to make sense of them and then figure out what's true. Here's another way though. Here's kind of more the bigger way. Take the idea of love. So, and I really love this. This comes out of 1 Corinthians 13, which I just think encapsulates love perfectly. Love is patient, it's kind, it doesn't keep a record of wrong. It's loyal, it's trusting, all these beautiful characteristics. That's what love does. So take those characteristics, write it down. Patient, kind, long-suffering, gentle, take these things and delights in you succeeding. And then ask yourself, based on that behavior, is that the same? Does that match up? No, it doesn't. That's when you can see the truth that a person who loves you doesn't then pull things out vindictively months later and jabs you with it. A person who loves you doesn't berate you for a small error and act like it's an irreversible thing that's never survivable. A person who loves you, who's betrayed you, is going to understand that you have 1,000 times the questions about where they are and what they're doing because they've hurt that and betrayed that, and they're going to be patient with you. A person who loves you is not going to judge you. They're going to create an environment of safety for you. So really challenge that. By challenging it, you'll help yourself break through the confusion of what's real about this person. And I know when I'm talking to you, you're going to say, a lot of you are going to say, yeah, but you know what? Even some of my healthy relationships, people do this to me. Yeah, and I would urge you to start confronting them because it's wrong. Those types of behaviors is wrong. Are narcissists intelligent? Is that always the case? No, their intelligent ranges just like everybody else's. The average intelligence is 100. I think they all have the same kind of average level of intelligence. But I think what's different about them that you're sensing, and that is they have incredible, and it's not emotional intelligence. They're not emotionally intelligent, but they have incredible sort of survival instincts. They're the primitive, the sort of the reptilian, that's the most primitive part of the brain, the reptilian part of the brain, the oldest part of the brain, is very developed, highly developed, and overly active, which makes them extremely suspicious, sneaky, and just spot threat. They're very good at spotting threat. Now, I have a feeling they're super intelligent around spotting threat, but I don't think it comes to the ability to sort of, see things as they are, their ability to sort of, be good at school. No, I don't think they have any more, they're not any better than that than anybody else. Yeah, I would call it predatory instincts. That's a great way to say it. They're very, very good at that. Somebody else asked, and I'll take this question as the last question because I'm going to wrap it up and join my Toxic Free Relationship Club in a few moments for one of our weekly group lives. And I'd love to have you guys be a part of it if you're interested. But one of the last questions was, is there any kind of connection between neurodivergence and being vulnerable to a narcissist? Yes, I would say yes, absolutely. I would say people who are neurodivergent, I am myself, I'm autistic. We do, because of our literalness, because we tend to struggle to sort of see through deception, because we tend to be such we see it as it is. We got to see reality sort of like in a blunt, head-on way, that we're not very good at deception, and we don't spot deception very well, and it makes us gullible, unfortunately. I do think that increases our gullibility. Yeah, there is that question again, Jennifer through Neuropath. I appreciate that. Do you think neurotypical or autistic men have the same traits as narcissists? No, I don't. I do think there's an overlap in how their struggle with empathy looks like a lack of empathy, but there's no evidence out there that a neurodivergent man or woman lacks empathy. It's just that they use it in a different way. They struggle because of their cognitive and social problems, connecting people in a warm way. I think that makes them come off stiff and cold when really actually they're very warm people. I have 3 sons. They're all on the spectrum. Yeah, they're not always the most warm, cuddly people in the entire world. They don't always exude a lot of that, but it doesn't make them low on empathy. Whereas a narcissist, they can exude a lot of warmth and make us think they're very empathic, and that they are not empathic at all. So somebody asked about the weekly groups. I host 4 weekly, actually 2 grouply. Okay, let me step back. The Toxic Free Relationship Club now hosts 4 weekly group coaching a week. Yeah, I just said that multiple times. So if you'd like to be a part of the group, it's called Toxic Free Relationship Club at the club level. It's at the club level. We also have the VIP level where you can get 1 monthly one-on-one with me. I join my group times are Saturday mornings and Tuesday evenings, and we also do a book club. And this month, the book of the month is It's Not Okay. We're going to read Dr. Ramani's book. So if you're interested in finding a community, it's 24/7 chat. There is a video library filled with things that would normally are behind a paywall. You get the subscription with the podcast extras and the newsletter, and then you get the weekly lives. If you'd like that, that's the Toxic Free Relationship Club. Oh, It's Not You. Thank you. Yes, It's Not You. That's the book we're reading this month. I always say it wrong. I always say It's Not Okay, or It's Not. I always do something weird with that title, but It's Not You. So yes, if you'd like that additional support, and please hear me, I say this all the time, don't let your budget stop you. If you say, oh, $75 a month, I can't afford that. Well, first of all, think about it. You're getting at least a minimum of 4 coaching calls a month. For $75 a month, usually coaching costs more than that for 1 call, but you're getting 4 of them. So you get all of that. But what I'm saying is, I will make a financial arrangement with you that will work for you. You just have to reach out and ask. I know that's really hard. I know we don't like doing that, but please just reach out and ask. And I would love to have you be a part of that. All right, you guys, so great to see you. I want to let you know I will not be around next week. I'm actually going to be flying to Germany. I'm one of the experts. I just learned I get to have dinner with Dr. Ramani, guys. I get to have dinner with Dr. Ramani. I'm going to meet her in person. She's going to be on this film with me. So we're part of the experts for this movie coming out. I'll let you know more about the movie when it comes out so that you know where to see it. But I get to be one of the experts they're interviewing. So I'm leaving Saturday. I'm going to come back the following weekend. So I'll be back. So I'll be here with you guys in 2 weeks. But yeah, it's super cool. I want to have her on my podcast. I have a feeling because I get to meet her in person, she'll agree. So watch for that comes up on YouTube, that I get to have her. I'm hoping. I'm saying that now. Watch out, she'll say no. But anyway, it's going to be super cool. I get to be with a couple other experts. Lisa Sunny is also going. Her and I are going to arrive at the same time and share a car to take to the hotel, which is several hours away. So it'll be fun. I mean, I get to see what it's like to be on a movie set. I'm super excited. So I'll be back in 2 weeks, and I'll see you guys then. All right, you guys take care. Bye-bye.